Welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. I rushed and hurried up and got the car done so I could take it down to Carlisle Import and Performance, which if you saw us there, luckily we made it there and made it back, but that's you'll see here in a minute. So as you saw in the thumbnail, which I'll make the thumbnail, you'll see it. So if you've seen the thumbnail, you have to ask yourself, how have we gotten here? Well, when we left town here, where I live, we didn't even make it to our local Sheets to get gas, and I slammed and drug real hard. Couldn't figure out what was going on. So the quick and easy solution was to reach under the car and remove the muffler, which is lower than everything else. I have it on a V-band, so it was real simple. Just reach under and bolt it. It comes out. And that got us down the road. When we made it to Carlisle, just on this side of Harrisburg, we had to take a detour off into Newport, PA, which I love Newport. Used to live there when I was a kid. Awesome. They have a section of road in there that sucks. It's very bumpy and very hard. So we were going through there, and I hit a hard transition in the road. Heard a loud thump. The car jumped, and then after that, it was fine. After that, just didn't really think about what was going on. So we made it to the car show. First day, didn't think nothing of it. The car was sitting there. About lunchtime-ish, so we moved our vehicles from where we were parking down to the Nissan section. And at that time, a friend of ours that was unwrecked, he was riding with us. He just happened to look at my front strut and saw that the top hat was bent, which I'll show you all the damage here in a minute. The top hat was bent on the shock. So let me try to explain it to you. These cars have a shock that's independent from the spring, like a normal car is a strut. This is just a shock. And then on the outside of the shock is it used to be a 5-inch spring. But when I cut the strut tires to get the engine in, I had to go with I think it's a 3-inch or 3¼ inch spring, which I actually took out of an old set of struts, or old set of rear struts for a 240SX. The problem with that is the spring rate, so the amount of compression that they have is far less than what I needed for the weight of the front of this car. So what was going on was the spring was it's compressed as far as it could go. The shock was actually compressed, so you have the top of the strut and then the body, and then that usually whenever you look in here you see like a silver section, that's what bounces. That entire silver section was collapsed. So basically I was riding on the bottom half of my strut or shock the whole way. So and whenever it did that, it pushed the top hat up, bent it. It actually bubbled up the strut tire a little bit. Yeah, so that's a new project coming down the road here. I'm going to have to build a coilover system so that it'll work for me. And everyone was concerned Friday night, because I stayed the night, I camped. They were concerned whether or not I was going to make it home Saturday. So Friday night, I decided to become MacGyver and make my car work. So the front strut I was hesitant about, but not overly concerned, because I knew it was compressed and I knew it physically couldn't go anywhere. Like it's welded in place. It can't go anywhere. Worst case scenario, could have popped the shock, and like I said, worst case scenario, possibly come up through the top of the tire, but it's going to hit the hood. The hood's going to stop it. Worst case scenario. Nothing else. No other damage happened on the way home. We did hit a couple bumps and stuff, but it was fine. We just was careful when we were traveling back. Now the rear end, on the other end, the reason I was dragging my muffler. So the rear end of these things have a leaf spring like in a pickup truck, and there's no helper spring. It's literally the leaf spring is it. There's no spring anywhere else. So this is the original car from 1970, so this is a 53-year-old car. So those leaf springs are supposed to be like a kind of like a U shape. Right now, I'll show you here in a minute. They're basically straight with the car just sitting here. And I'll set you down here in a minute and show you the leaf spring. So what happened was, the way that it's currently sitting right now, there's nothing in the trunk, there's nothing in the car, and nobody's in it. So when you see the spring and the spring straight, it shouldn't be straight. It should be like a concave. And then as you put weight on it, it straightens up. So the problem with that is as soon as we filled the trunk up with coolers and tools and just everything we took down with us, it put that much extra weight in the back. Then on top of that, my son and his girlfriend came along, so he sat up front with me and she sat in the back seat, plus stuff we had in the back seat, weighed the car down so much that it was actually hitting the bump stops, which is what keeps the body, like it's as far down as the body can come, and it touches the rear axle. That's where we were at. So we were bottomed out, and by doing that, we were dragging the muffler. It wasn't a good thing. So Friday night, I had to run around to the vendors and figure out what to do. And that's where my thumbnail come from. It worked. I zip tied them. It got me home. They're coming off. I mean, like as soon as I order a set of leaf springs, they're coming off. Well, no, they're going to come off today. But what I'm saying is I'm going to put a new set of leaf springs on it before I drive it again. But yeah, that was the events that led me to this conundrum. And I'll have more videos coming up with how I fix this, which I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how exactly I want to do it. I'm still leaning toward like the Mustang 2 style suspension, but I'm unsure if I want to spend the money to buy the kit or to try to build my own strut assembly. Which, knowing me, I'll more than likely build my own because I don't really want to spend $2,500 for no apparent reason. But I'm going to show you the damage. Stay tuned. Alright, so if I can get you here. So you see this spring? There's one here, and here. It's one long spring. That is what's supposed to be U-shaped. So if you watch that spring, that's just for me pushing down on it from the back. So now you see the deadbolt hammer I have zip tied in here? That kept this rear axle that I'm touching from bottoming out in this. So that gave me an extra, whatever, however thick that thing is, 2 inches, whatever. That gave me 2 inches, so this was actually setting on this on the way home, which is how I got home. But like I said, these are coming out, and I'll actually order a set of leaf springs. Out the front. So, the front suspension, as you can see right here, you see how it bent this ear? It bent it here. That's because if you look through this little hole, see that little blue piece you see right here? That's actually the bottom of the strut, which means that strut is completely compressed and it's actually pushing against this plate. So when I hit a large bump, it pushed up through and bent this. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but this is humped over. You can see, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but this metal plate has actually been bent. That's a 3/8 plate. So you're not gonna be able to see it up in here. I don't think you are. Yeah, up in there. So my game plan is to order either a 3-inch round coil, like an aftermarket type coilover, like you put on 240, like a eBay kit or whatever. It's hard springs for the right length, which will give me my tension down here, but I need it long enough that the shock itself is actually doing its job and bouncing. If not, there's you replace this upper arm. There's an aftermarket arm you put in there that, let me see, there would be a bracket down here that bolts here, and a bracket that comes up, and then a shock will go up through this upper arm and mount up here, so that way the shock is actually, like say from here down is the shock, and all this up here gets removed out of that strut tire. That's the ultimate way of doing it. That way I can get rid of the strut. That way I don't have, see this issue I have with this, the way the pipe sits. That would literally, I would cut this strut tire here straight down. That would give me this massive hole right here. So if anything ever happens down the road and I want to put a V8 back in it or whatever, see, it's easier to see here. It would remove this line. All this would be gone because the shock itself would be down below. But didn't overheat. Car made 20-ish pound boost. It was a fun ride. We had fun. Well, stay tuned. And if you guys didn't see me this year, hope you guys see me next year. Keep watching, and like I said, I'll have more videos up coming up. Peace.